even though if you weren't following on the heels maybe of some of the other towns or cities involved, you may not have had as much luck with what you did. But I think it's time that everybody stood up and asked what's in that budget. And we have it laid out just like your budget. It has to be presented to the people of the town. And the operating school committee budget is, dissected and taken apart and put back together. Theirs needs to go under the same microscope. I applaud you for taking the time and effort that you did this year with it.
Thank you. Just as a matter of fact, though, while they don't get much scrutiny, they don't get much support either. They have to go back 2 and 3 times to get it passed, and they get it in 4 times. This is their 4th pass at it, which is, again, is a testament to the community saying, time out, there isn't a good level of communication here.
It's also a sign of the times.
It's a sign of the times, but even in the good times, it takes them 3 passes at a minimum to get it passed. So they could do a better job of communicating, maybe get it through the first time.
Okay, I'll entertain a discussion over. I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Modify the, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move to support the Northeast Metropolitan Regional Vocational School FY10 operating budget recommended by the Regional School Committee on November 12, 2009, and to add $31,103 to the tax rate recap sheet as an additional amount to be raised.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Yule, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, the hour of 7:30 has come and gone, and I will open a public hearing for the FY10 tax classification and tax rates setting. And the assessor is here. Who is speaking this evening?
And I'm here to explain to the board and public what you're here for tonight.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, before Yano continues, I would like the record to show that I will not be participating in the board deliberation regarding this matter, and I will not be participating in the vote of the board for this matter. I've been informed, what was it, a couple of years ago, there may be a potential conflict because I have a family member who happens to own both commercial and residential property. I happen to disagree with the recommendation, but that's okay. That being said, I will not be participating. Should I choose to participate, I will reserve my comments for the public hearing input portion of the session as a resident and taxpayer in North Reading, and I will not, then once the public hearing is closed, I will not participate in the deliberations of the board.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Mr. Yule.
A question with regard to the personal property aspect of the assessing of the taxes. If a sole proprietor is working out of their house and a split tax is implemented, is the personal property tax also impacted as well?
It would be.
Would be commensurate.
And any personal property would be taxed at a higher rate.
Okay. Then I will have to take the same course as Steve O'Leary. I discussed it with council, and then I just needed to verify that aspect of it, so I will have to not participate in the conversations and or the voting, but I will reserve the right to publicly speak.
Are you being assessed for personal property in your home?
Yes, I do receive personal property tax, yes.
Then yes, that's true. It would be
Okay, go forward with your presentation.
Before I begin, I'd just like to recognize Greg, the members of my board, Greg Smith and Faye Ingraham.
Hello.
Joe?
The options for consideration tonight are selection of a minimum residential factor, selection of a discount for open space, and granting of a residential and/or small commercial exemption. The selection of the residential factor, if a factor of 1 were to be adopted, this in effect would give you a single tax rate, $13.47 for both residential up to 50% on the commercial rate. And, excuse me, on the table, I don't know if anybody would like to go along with this. I just did on the chart, I picked a factor of 110%, 125, and 150. If a shift of 150 were granted, the residential tax rate would go down from 1347 to 1242. And the commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rate would increase from $13.47 to $20.20. The average residential value for fiscal year 2010 is $409,000. And the commercial value, the average is $779,000. And the chart below shows what the shift would be, or what the tax bills would be at the various shift levels. So with the average, if the maximum shift were voted, the residential property owner could save about a little over $400. But the commercial, the average commercial value would go up by over $5,000. Just for informational purposes, and this really has nothing to do with the hearing itself, the residential property values went down approximately 9% on the average.
And that accounts for a bigger tax increase, or tax rate than one
Yeah.
might expect based on last year's tax rate.
Mm-hmm. And the average condo value went down 13.5%.
What was the home value again, I'm sorry?
9%.
9%.
And 13% you said in condo?
13.5 on the condos. Commercial values went down approximately 4.5%, and industrial about 3%. And if you look at the exhibit at the back, there is Exhibit D shows the property classes and shows the valuation from fiscal year 05 to fiscal year 2010. You can see how the total property valuation changed from year to year, going up in 2006, another increase in 07, slight decrease in 08. This is total property valuation. And an increase in 09, and then substantial.
Excuse me, Sebastian,
Yes.
did you say Exhibit D?
Yeah,
We don't
I'm
have it.
sorry. Members of the Board of Selectmen may not have it in
Oh.
the proper order.
I think it's a D or E. I think it's E.
It has 2 E's on the packet. that
Oh,
we
so
sent
E is
out.
really D?
This is one.
All right, so that one's actually,
That's actually D?
This is actually.
oh, it says D.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it, thank
I
you.
have it.
We sent out our packets to the Board of Selectmen, and then we made our corrections.
This one here, keep it, it's way in the back. Way in the back.
But it does show the increase in the valuation. And you might note that the increase in the levy did not have dips. Each year, it has increased from
No, it's not.
2005 to 2010. So while the values may go up or down, the levy just goes up. And for those who don't realize it, your tax bill goes up. Exhibit E shows the breakdown in some of the neighboring communities for last year. What the percent of space that was residential. That's the other exhibit.
What is that? It was at the back, after the back, and just before, yeah.
Was the percentage of residential and commercial base were the amount of the shift that was voted and the average tax bill? Whoops, missed Reading's tax bill. Sorry about that. Exhibit C is just terms that I might not know what they mean. And Exhibit A and B, A is the breakdown by classification of all the properties in town, and Exhibit B is the levy limit.
Mr. Vino had a
Yeah,
question.
yeah. Sebastian, just a question on the other cities and towns.
Yes.
I noticed Wakefield and Wilmington have a 1.75. I thought 1.50 was the max we could go to.
Once you reach the 1.50 maximum, there's another plateau. You can go to 1.75.
You can't just go
Oh.
there all at once.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Chapter 200 voted, went in about 6 years ago,
Okay.
pushed by the cities like Boston and Chelsea and what have you, and they got it increased to 1.97. But eventually it had to come down. Each year it had to drop. And now 1.75 is the absolute
Oh,
maximum.
okay.
Any other questions? Do you want to go on to the other
Hmm? Yes, please.
selection of the
Yeah.
open space discount? We do not classify anything in North Reading as open space. And therefore, no open space discount is warranted here. General laws say that open space is classified as land which is not otherwise classified and which is not taxable under Chapter 61A or B, or taxable under permanent conservation restrictions, in which land is not held for the production of income that is maintained in an open or natural condition and which contributes significantly to the benefit and enjoyment of the public. And we don't classify anything as open space. The last two items are granting of a residential and/or a small commercial exemption. This board may adopt a residential exemption for all residential properties in the town that are owner-occupied. The exemption amount would be up to 20% of the average assessed value of all properties eligible to be taxed at the residential rate and would include vacant parcels as part of the total parcel count. Although the thought of granting a residential exemption to owner-occupied residential properties appears to be a form of tax relief, this is not completely the case. It's true that some properties would receive relief through the adoption of this measure. However, since the tax levy remains the same, the overall residential rate would increase with a 20% exemption substantially to compensate for this form of relief. In our case, the residential tax rate would rise from $13.47 to an estimate of $16.63. What would happen is that if the average property value is $400,000, then, and you granted a 20% residential exemption, the exemption amount would be $80,000, 20% of $400,000. This would be subtracted from the value of your property. So if you had a property that was worth $400,000, it would be assessed at $320,000 and the rate of $16.63 would apply, as opposed to the $13.47. If you multiply out the $16.63 times $320 and the $13.47 by the $400,000,